Hello everybody. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Kara Lee and this is my channel Stitching is Elementary, where I normally talk about cross stitch and quilting and just show what I've been working on and what I finished and just all my projects. But today is going to be a special video for the kids in my class and for any other kid or adult who wants to teach a kid how to cross stitch, very beginner level. On Thursday, so we don't have school on Friday, so on Thursday in my class I had a few girls who were interested in doing learning to cross stitch. So I had already bought plastic canvas because I thought during indoor recess it would be, I could just give them some yarn and a needle and they could just make loops in it, and just do like a normal plastic canvas stitch, which I think is just making diagonal stitches all the way across. But then they were like, well, we would like to learn a cross stitch. So I thought, well, you could still use the plastic canvas. So this video is going to be to show them and you how to do that. It's very, very simple. Like I said, it's a very beginner level. I had shown them on Thursday during indoor recess and they were loving it, but they were having trouble. And so I said, well, take it home. I put in a baggie for them, like you can take it home and use it. But they're like, well, what if we forget? And so I said, okay, I'll make you a little video so your parents can watch it and you can rewatch it and remember how to do it when you're at home. So my idea for school was, we have a lot of indoor recess because of rain. So I wanted something a little more creative for them to do and something that would hopefully help their fine motor skills. So when you're learning to print in kindergarten and first grade, your fine motor skills are how you use your fingers, how much control you have in your hands. And the better your fine motor skills are, the more practice they are, the better your printing is. So I wanted something that would help them with that because they're at the age where some of them have really not well developed fine motor skills and they could use practice with that. So that was my idea originally, but then the girls were like, we want to learn to cross stitch. So, so it turned into that. So I'm going to go through the supplies you need here while the camera is facing me, and then I'll stop and turn the camera so you can just see my hands and I'll show how to do it. Okay, so first of all, obviously you need the plastic canvas. Now there's all different sizes, colors of this. People do like plastic canvas as a hobby, like art, and there's books on how to stitch all different stitches for plastic canvas. I'm just going to show you cross stitch because that's what they wanted to learn, and I thought this would be a good way for them to begin and be able to do it on their own and get the idea of the stitch down. And then eventually, as they get older, or even maybe, at their age now, they can move to like a 14 count or 14 count Aida, or I found this 11 count Aida. I was trying to find the biggest Aida I could, that they could eventually work to doing regular cross stitch on Aida. But I think this is a good way to start. And I can't sit by each one of them in school and help them the whole time, but if you're teaching your child or your grandchild at home, you can sit right next to them and help them. But I needed something that was going to be really easy that they were going to be able to do on their own after I showed them. So that's the idea. So the plastic canvas, and it's cool because it does come in all kinds of little shapes. So there's stars. At school I have rainbows, which the girls are really excited about. Bookmarks, little luggage tags. So there's all different kinds of things once they know how to do it that they could make from it. And like I said, it comes in all different colors. But I just took this sheet and I cut it into 4s. And I gave them a sheet like this. And so you'll see on here, this is yarn, which is what I initially thought we would start with. I've made it so it will work. And yarn is cheap and it comes in all kinds of colors. So I thought, that would be the easiest for school. And it would fill up the space. Now I didn't originally think we were going to do cross stitches. So you'll see here is doing, just doing these 4 holes, a normal over 1 cross stitch. And it's really full. But then you could do over 2 and you can see the X's a little more. It's not quite so full. And then this down here is embroidery floss. So as we were doing this, it was a little hard for them to thread. And so I thought, I wonder if they could do embroidery floss because I could get a lot more colors in that. This is the yarn I got, but I mean, yarn comes in big things of yarn, and so that would be a lot to store, and the thickness was kind of hard for them to thread, so I thought maybe embroidery floss would work. So I got that and tried it, and this is a full skein of embroidery floss. I didn't separate it out, so it's all 8 plies, right? Yeah, 8 ply, so it's all of them. So I just took it off like this, and I just folded it in half, and they would do the loop method like that. So they would secure it with this loop on the back, and they would stitch with 2 full strands basically. That's what this is, because I thought that would be the easiest in school. So you can see over 2 it doesn't cover very well, but over 1 it covers pretty nicely. So you could definitely use embroidery floss on this plastic canvas as well. And there are smaller hold, like different count plastic canvases, just like there are Aidas. So you might be able to get a smaller one if you like that better. But yeah, so we started with this plastic canvas. We started with this yarn, and they were having trouble threading it. So what I did, well, let me back up a little bit. So you need plastic canvas, yarn of any kind, you know, just something that's not gonna be too fluffy, or if you want floss. So I found this giant thing of floss at Hobby Lobby. It's just the Artiste brand, and it was 30% off. So it came down, I think, like 11 bucks for all of this. So you could do that too. And that way, you know, I can have all these different colors in this size. If I had this many yarns in different colors, it would take up a ton of room, and I don't have a ton of room in school. So there's that. So then you need needles. So I had originally thought, I got these off of Amazon, and it didn't really say what these were for, but they didn't really work for the plastic canvas. I thought they would, but they just barely fit through. Like, you really had to pull to get them through, which wasn't good for the girls. So I found at Hobby Lobby, they actually have plastic canvas needles, and these worked much better. Now it says these are for 10 mesh, which is what this is. No, this is 7 mesh, and they worked fine. So yeah, but I think they did have little bigger ones there too, if you know, if that's better for your kiddo. So this is what it looks like. There we go. It's got a pretty big eye there in it. So this actually worked pretty well for threading, so I think they'll do better with this, even threading the yarn. So what I did is I got some needle threaders. We'll see if we can not lose these in school. That's going to be the key. But I got this one, which is dual-sided. And then I also got these ones. Okay, so these were $1.99, and they come with 2. This is $2.99, and it comes with 1, but I think this one is better. Okay, so this one has 2 ends, and I'll show you when I start showing you how to do it. You just put the needle here and put the yarn or the floss through here and just pull it off, and it very easily threads it. This one has, you can see that little wire. Okay, and it worked fine. It was a little harder to pull through with the yarn, but the floss, it worked totally fine. But I've used these myself for cross stitch, and I know this wire breaks eventually. So I'm imagining with the kids doing it and with yarn, it's gonna break much quicker. So I think in the long run, this is your best bet, but you know, 2 options you have. Okay, so I think we went through all the supplies, just plastic canvas, yarn or floss, needle, needle threader. So what I did was I had tied the thread onto the needle, so that, because it was kept coming off on them. So that's another thing you can do. But with the needle threader, it is much easier to thread through. So we know, depends on your child. But yeah, I just tied it on, and they went to town, and it was good. So I'm going to stop the video now. I'm going to adjust my camera, and then I'll come back and show you guys how to do it. Okay, so now I will show you how to do it. Okay, so I've got my yarn here and my floss. I'm going to show you how to thread both. So first, for the yarn, you'll get your needle threader. You're going to put the eye of the needle through this part, so it's just like that. Okay, then you'll take, then we're going to get our thread. Sorry, I didn't cut it yet, so let's cut our thread. So we're going to pull as much thread as you want. Do like that. It's totally up to you how much thread you use. I usually use about, 12 inches. Once it's doubled, it's 12, so 24 inches doubled. So you have about a 12-inch piece, and you double it so you have this loop at the end. So then you'll take your needle and your needle threader. So there's my needle on there like that. And I'm going to put my yarn through this little loop right here. Okay. Kind of hold it like that. So there's our yarn and there's our needle, and then you're just going to take your needle and pull it off, and it'll pull the yarn through. Now it's a little harder with the yarn because it's thick, so you gotta just kind of yank it, and there you go. So now here's the loop. This is how we're going to secure it on the back of the plastic canvas. So I'm just going to pull this till there's a little bit of a tail there, and I'm going to show you how I tied that, because for the girls I tied it. So for kids, girls or boys, I think it would be easier. The boys, after I was showing the girls in school, they were like, oh, we want to do that too. So I'm sure one of these days, if they can break themselves away from their video games, I will be showing them. So yeah, so just tie in one little knot and it just keeps it on a lot easier. It was a real pain. It just kept coming off for them. So here is our plastic canvas. I cut a smaller piece. I think it will be easier on the video to show. So remember, we are either doing, get up here close, 1, 2, 3 by 1, 2, 3 holes, or I don't know if you can see that, or 1, 2 by 1, 2. So either over 1 or over, you skip the one in the middle and over into the second one. So either 1 or over 2 is what we call it. So I'm going to be doing the 3 holes by 3 holes because with the yarn that's easier, and then with the embroidery floss I'll show you the 2 holes by 2 holes, or the over 1. So when it's 3 holes by 3 holes we call it over 2. When it's 2 holes by 2 holes we call it over 1. Okay, so we've got our yarn threaded, so I'll show you that first and then I'll show you the embroidery floss. So you are going to, usually what we do in cross stitch is, so if we're doing these 3 by these 3, you come up in the bottom left side. So I'll pull that there, and then you go down, so you're going to go diagonally across. Great, we came up here, we're going to skip this one and go down through this one. And you want to make sure you still have your loop on the back. Okay, so you're going to go down through, pull that little knot I made through, pull it, pull it, pull it. Try not to pull the loop on the back through yet. So there. So now see, we have that loop coming out the back, and we're going to turn it over and run our strand of yarn through that loop. See, like that, and just keep pulling until you get it tight on the back. So now you have that secured on the back, and that's not going anywhere. Okay, so let's go back the way I was. So I had started in my bottom left, went to my bottom right. Now I'm going to go through the back into my bottom right hole. So you see I'm skipping this hole in the middle because I'm going over 2. Okay, and pull it through all the way. And now we're going to go diagonally from this hole across to the top right hole and pull it through. And there we go, there's our first X. Now, one thing the girls were doing is they were flipping this around, always trying to go through the front. And you see, then you get, you know, that happening. And you don't want that. So what I tried to tell them to do is, if the thread is coming out the back, you're going up through the back. If the thread is coming out the front, you're going down through the front. So here our thread's coming out the back, right? So now we're going to go bottom right to top left again, but we're going to start in the bottom right stitch we've already stitched. So on the last stitch was our bottom left, now it's our bottom right. So we're going to go through that, pull up, because remember, you don't want that space. You want to connect those stitches. So see where I've gone through? And now I'm going to skip this stitch in the middle and go through this top right stitch. And there's our first leg of our cross. Now we're coming out the back, so we're going to go up through the back. So we skip this middle one, and we're going to go to this bottom right and go up through. And now we're going to go across, and we're going to go in this stitch that we've already stitched, the top left, and pull down. And you just keep going like that, making sure that if you're in the back, you're going up through the back, and you're starting your next cross stitch always in the one you've already stitched. So bottom left, and now we're coming through the top, right? So we're going to go down through the top to top right, skipping that stitch in the middle. And then we're coming out the back here, so we're going to go up through the back in that bottom right hole, pull all the way up, and we're going to go down into our top left hole. So we're not going to go in this one, we're going to go in this one that we've already stitched. And you just keep going along like that until you run out of thread. So I'll do a few stitches here and then I'll show you how to tie off on the back. It's hard to do away from me. Do one more. Okay, so there I have a whole row of stitches. Now I have about this much left, and you might actually want to leave a little bit more. But yeah, and I see my knots kind of coming undone, so I'm going to tighten that up a little bit so the knot's smaller. Okay, so here is our front, here is our back. Now to finish off your stitches so this doesn't all come undone, what we do in cross stitches, we run our needle and thread through 2 or 3 stitches on the back. Doesn't really matter how many, just as many as you want to secure it. Now there's that knot, so it's going to be a little harder to pull. So let me pull. Okay, so pull that through. Get your ends out. Okay, so you're like this. Then we'll go back around and go through again. Now I should have left a little more. You'll want to leave a little more yarn so it's easier to go through. Tail of yarn. Pull it through. Okay, so there's what I have left. So I'm just going to cut that off. And you cut it as close to the stitches as you can without obviously cutting the stitches. And that's how you finish off your cross stitch. Just go through once, twice. Sometimes with embroidery floss, because it's more slippery, I might go through 3 or 4 times and then cut it off. And there you go. So you can see once you fill that up, and if you were doing like a star or whatever, that would look really cool. Or you could do, I was thinking with the bookmarks, you could do like different colors or do a pattern of different flosses or different yarns. So yeah, so that's with the yarn. So now let me show you with the embroidery floss. So embroidery floss comes in what's called skeins like this. Whoops, pulled that off. I showed you before, you know, lots of different colors. So these are called skeins, and then there are 6 plies in each skein of embroidery floss. So when I pull this off, there's 6 little strings in this whole ply of floss. I'm not sure I'm using the right words, but when we do cross stitch, normally we separate these 6 out and take and use 2 of the strands, or 1 strand that we folded over to make 2 strands. So you'll see if you do it on Aida, you're not going to use all 6 normally. You're going to pull off, like I would pull one of these like this, and then I would double it, and that's what I would use on my Aida. But for the kids and doing on plastic canvas, I think just using the whole 6 strands is good. So there's one little length of 6 strands. So I would pull that off to about 24 inches again, and then fold it in half so we have a loop. Okay, so there's my strand of floss. I'm going to fold it in half, line up the ends. So now we have that loop at the end to secure it on the back. Okay, so this is much thinner than the yarn was. So maybe you'll want to start with the yarn and then move to this. You know, I don't know. Also, when you're pulling this off, normally it's easier to pull off on the end that has the number. I don't know why, somehow how they wrap it. But for DMC floss too, now this is Artiste floss, but for DMC floss, the same thing. If you pull from the number the end that has a number, it usually comes off easier and doesn't knot as much. One other thing real quick before I show you how to thread this. If your child gets in this and does it a lot, these are bobbins for the floss. So you can take so you would take this off and you would unwind all of this kind of by shaking it out, which I've already kind of knotted up. But once you get it all unwound, you would then wrap it. So you'd put it in here like this and you'd wrap it around. And it's much easier to get off. It doesn't get knotted. Where if you're constantly taking it off the skein with the papers on it still, it tends to get knotted. So if you're going to use it a lot, this is a good way to do it. And I even found at Hobby Lobby, which I haven't tried yet. See if I can find it. There was a little wheel that, sorry for the crinkling. What do I do with it? Oh, here. This little wheel that you attach this to, and you turn this handle and it winds it. And you can attach this to like the plastic box that it stays in. So they sell these little plastic boxes that fit these in them, and you attach this to the side of it and you can just wind it. So if you end up doing a lot of it, that's pretty cool. Yeah, so that's what you would do with the floss to store it. Be much easier, because otherwise it ends up like a knotted mess like this. So anyway, so there we have our one length of floss, all 6 strands looped. And now I'm going to thread it. Now, because it's all 6 strands and it's doubled, I am going to still use the thick side. If I was just doing my normal 2 strands, I would do this thinner side. That's why I think this is so great. I'm going to use this. I'm going to get more of these. One for school, or a few for school, and one for at home because they're nice. Okay, so we're going to use that same plastic canvas needle. Put it through. So our eye is right there. I'm going to turn it this way, actually. Hold on. There we go, like that. So your eye of the needle is hanging right there. You're going to put your floss through the hook, like so. And now just pull your needle, and it comes through much easier than the yarn. Just don't pull, don't pull the loop through. You want to pull that so that loop's back there, and you just have a little tail of floss. Sorry, right here. And I'm going to knot it again like I would for the kids at school. Just a little one. You don't want to have it. You don't want to have this be a real long tail. Just as much as you need, or as little as you can get away with and still knot it. Okay. So there we go. We're ready to go. So now, for using it with the floss, I would just do the 2 holes by 2 holes. So, oh, there we go. So I would just start, and so you're just going to do, 1, 2 by 1, 2. It's hard for me to see if you can see that, but you'll see it as we're doing it. So I'm going to actually turn it around so that my yarn isn't in my way, and you can see. So here we're going to start in this bottom left hole. Okay. Come up. And you see we have our loop on the back, like that. So I'm going to come up, I'm going to go diagonal and go through the top, right hole. Now I don't want to pull all the way through, I want that loop to stay there. So now I'm going to turn it over and see, I'm having trouble showing this. There's my loop. I'm going to run my needle through that loop so I can secure it, see, on the back. So now that's secure, so let me turn it back over. So there's my first leg of my cross stitch. So I did bottom right to top left. Now I'm going to do bottom left to top right. Sorry if I'm saying that wrong. It's opposite of what I'm doing. So through top right, and there's my X. So now to do the next one, remember you want to connect it. So I'm going to go bottom left through the hole I already stitch through, pull it through, and then go diagonal, and I'm just going to the very next diagonal hole, because remember this is over 1, and pull it through. So now there's 1 whole stitch, there's 1 leg, my first leg. Now I'm going to come back through the back in the hole right next to it, pull up through, and go down diagonally in the hole I've already done, the top left. I'll just keep doing that, bottom left to top right. It's just the same as the yarn, you're just not skipping a hole. Bottom right to top left. And I'll just keep doing a few so you can watch. Right there. Okay, so there we go, get a bunch of stitches, and then we'll just turn it over, run, I'm going to turn it a little bit for me, so run our needle through a few stitches. Once again, that knot makes it a little harder to pull through, but it works. Then go through again. And there you go. Now you can just trim it. You're going to trim it like right there next to, and for the kids in school, I might even tell them, guys, you might want to trim it up a little bit more, and then me or your parents could trim it closer if you're afraid of cutting your stitches. You'll just trim it. And you do have that little piece off, but that's okay. We could always trim that more later. You see that's a little more than you want, but it's okay. That might be easier. I just wouldn't want you to cut into your stitches. So yeah, and there you've got the two different kinds. So there's our yarn over 2 holes, and here is our floss over 1 hole. Okay, I hope this was helpful for you. I think I showed you everything you should need. Just get your supplies and practice. Remember, guys, it's going to be a little hard at first. Everything takes practice, so don't get frustrated. If you're getting frustrated, just take a little break, go do something else, and come back and try again. And eventually you'll get it, and it will be easy and really enjoyable. So I hope you have fun stitching, and I hope if you're watching this as an adult, you're able to help your child. And I hope if you're my kiddos in school watching this, that you understood and you're able to do it at home on your own. Happy stitching. Bye.